Hey everyone, welcome to Game Off Podcast number 27. Today we're going to be talking about Elderborne and Bleeding Edge, two games that you've definitely heard of. We're also going to be having some interesting thoughts about some games we've been playing recently because everything is canceled due to the entire country being canceled and the entire world being canceled. So no real news to speak of. Rip. Yeah. Rip and tear to the entire gaming industry and all gaming news. I am your host, Andy, a.k.a. Solitalker, along with your other host.
Oh, Brent, Arcadia. I'm missing cues already.
That's all right. It's all right. This is the first one of the
2020, baby.
Yeah, this is the first one of the new year in the end of March. So, you know what? We're early for fiscal quarter. Q1 2020. Gonna knock it out.
I'm gonna need that report on my desk by Monday.
Absolutely.
If you still have a job.
I'm going to look at the finances of this podcast, and I will get you that report. It's going to be very quick. Very easy.
It's only one page, Andy.
Yeah. It's just a big 0. Size 72-point font.
Yeah, it'd be great to break even, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So Brent, what you playing? What you been playing lately?
What have I been playing lately? Well, other than the game we're going to talk about this week and next week, I've been diving a bit into the backlog now that we as a civilization have infinity time on our hands. So I figured I'd catch up on some games that are getting big releases this year. I decided to pick back up Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a game I sort of dropped like a hot rock not long after it came out because it was too similar. In my opinion, too similar to Origins, while being a bit inferior in some ways, mostly in storytelling, but neither here nor there. I have some gripes to this game, Andy. You played it a bit, right?
Oh yeah, no, I got probably about half to two-thirds of the way through it narratively. I'm sure there was a ton more additional side content that I didn't get to.
Yeah. You can beat the main story pretty quickly, probably in like 30, 40 hours. I think I ended up putting in like 140 hours into this game because, infinity time.
Yeah.
So I did everything in the game, and boy, I must say, this is probably the prime example of how not to do difficulty scaling.
I'm already excited for this.
I'm so ashamed of how this game handled difficulty scaling and how blasé they were with it. We're sort of used to difficulty scaling in this day and age. Just like, hey, we're sort of moving past the pick easy, normal, hard at the beginning, and then suddenly you can never change it again. Most games nowadays are like, oh, we see you died 100 times. You probably suck at this game. Why don't you tune it down a bit?
I'm feeling cold out right now.
Yeah, no. This game can do the opposite sometimes, where it's like, hey, you're dumpstering everything. Why don't you put it up a bit? I started on hard, and where it gives you the option of like, easy, normal, hard, and then on top of that, it gives you what I consider very confusing additional difficulty scaling options, where you can still make the game really easy by letting you adjust how the enemies scale in the world. Because all the enemies have fixed levels, because it's supposed to be transitioning into this sort of RPG era of Assassin's Creeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically you can control the level of the enemies, so all you need to do is be, at the same level as the highest level enemies in the game, and then they're always caught up to you anyway. It's a good idea with a game that has way too many levels and doesn't know what to do with it, but it comes off as like just a confused fucking mess. Because if you play on normal with like the hard mode level scaling, it's pretty fucking hard because everything's your level, and you're not really playing as an assassin anymore. Like, you can't assassinate people when everything's your level because assassin damage is a thing now.
That might have been the thing that frustrated me the most with that game, is that I didn't feel like an assassin anymore.
Yeah, you're not an assassin anymore. Depending on what you set the difficulty to, you're either a bitch-ass nobody or God amongst men. That works for games like Wolfenstein, I think, because it's fun to run around that game and just ass blast everything.
And that game's a power fantasy.
Exactly. This game, it tries to be grounded in reality, at least for a little bit, and then obviously the storytelling goes completely off the rails, especially with the DLC. But the thing about the difficulty is, if you play it on hard, it doesn't draw out the things that make like the Assassin's Creed fun, or even the new iterations of Assassin's Creed, because like they've really done a lot of work on the combat engine, making it more sophisticated than like rock paper scissors. They've made it more akin to like, I wouldn't say Witcher, but like it draws a lot of Witcher comparisons. It's definitely like an action RPG now. But it nothing about it being more difficult draws out anything else in like the combat engine. It just makes you look for janky ways to deal with situations, because when the game's harder, you have to rely on the assassin damage, which doesn't allow you to actually assassinate people, because at higher levels, even on normal, the best you're going to get is with a regular assassinate is a single hit kill on the weakest possible enemies that aren't even wearing armor. Otherwise, you have to completely rely on your adrenaline bar to critically assassinate people, which is not infinite use.
What you're describing, and I think it's something that's kind of across a lot of Ubisoft games, but especially in the Assassin's Creed games, is just too many systems.
There's too many systems.
Too many things that you couldn't possibly balance them all. And you can't have them all in balance with each other, where they can also be like scaled differently for different types of damage and different types of difficulty, and different types of difficulty with different types of combat, whether it's stealth combat versus hand to hand versus different types of range. Like it's like an MMO that's been around for 20 years and grown organically, but if you try to do it all from the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect comparison, because that's what most modern MMOs are doing now, including in Shadowbringers for Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft. It scales up the levels of everything around you, and then it's also just jamming in random mechanisms. But yeah, one of the things that annoyed me is like how transparent their like pseudo nemesis system was in the game, the mercenary system.
Oh yeah,
which was like, I definitely want to see that idea drawn out more in video games, but it was so half-cocked, and it's so transparent at high levels how like the algorithm worked. Like if you weren't at the level of the mercenaries, you were only getting like the worst mercenaries that were completely irrelevant, and like basically like complete peasants would come up and bother you in combat constantly, and you'd kill them, and then you'd look at this nemesis system and you'd be like, I was like 6 ranks higher than this guy, why is this chump bothering me?
that was probably one of my biggest disappointments with it as well, was that like, because much like things that I've talked about before, like the Geo mod, the nemesis system is something that should have been adapted by, like, it should have come out and every game should have seen that and said, oh, obviously this is a great evolution of open world gameplay and a way to make this exciting. We should have Mafia games that incorporate it, medieval games, we should have Assassin, like this should be everywhere. And they just didn't get it, and it seemed like they didn't understand what parts of the Nemesis system were interesting or well balanced or creative. Like
they just want procedurally generated characters to kill randomly on the map. Like, no, that's not it.
And even just like when they first present it to you and it's just a static line.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh.
2D list. Fuck me.
Well, this isn't like in the Shadows of Mordor games, whatever that series is supposed to be called. It's this really interesting tree with people moving laterally and vertically and moving different positions and calling each other out across ranks. There's a real organic growth to it that feels like you're spying on an organization. Yeah. And this was just kind of like, I don't know. Did you ever play the old Donkey Kong arcade where every time you beat a level, it shows you like how high can you get, and there's just another Donkey Kong stacked on top of each other, changing different colors?
No, I haven't.
It's
just
That's like,
awesome though.
But it's like a little difficulty meter. It's like, oh, you're on level 15 now. And here it is.
Hooray.
Here's Steve the Stabber, and he's gonna be hard to. Oh, you beat Steve the Stabber because you were level 26. Yep. Good for you.
Now you got to beat Betty the Shanker. Like, okay.
Can you do it? She's your arch rival because.
Because that's how the algorithm works. It's so personal, I know. Yeah, just to wrap up, it's just like I don't want to argue for the soul of Assassin's Creed. I think that difficulty should be thought out in games, because I originally stopped playing it because I couldn't get the difficulty correct, because the game just felt wrong, especially after playing Origins, which is very much the same game but without boats. I just couldn't get that same feeling that Origins gave me. I fucking loved Assassin's Creed Origins. I loved the story. I loved like the renewed combat. And I came into Odyssey and I spent way too much time tinkering, trying to figure out what was a good balance of rewarding and frustrating. Is the only way I could describe this. Because the only reason not to scale everything down to the lowest level is so that you always get gear that's relevant to you. Because the game also drops so much fucking useless gear. So you don't want fucking level 5 things all the way through like level 50. Neither here nor there. Yeah, so solid fail on difficulty. Still a fun game. Anyway, what you been playing, Andy?
I've been, as you're going through your backlog and doing the responsible adult thing, I've mostly just been playing Counter-Strike Go and Stardew Valley. Games that do not need any more of my time. I'm at close to 330 hours of Stardew Valley.
Nice.
And I'm not even doing a different playthrough than I normally do. Like I tried, and I was, I'm just gonna play through it again, just the way that I always do.
Can you get to Jeff Bezos levels of rich in that game?
Well, I originally got into it again because a friend of mine was playing it for the first time, trying to soothe the itch for Animal Crossing before it was coming out. And she's looking for something. I was like, oh, you should try Stardew Valley. And so she started it up. She opened up a co-op game, and it's a game that I don't. The best way to play it is not to play it co-op your first time through, because you won't realize how much easier it is to play it co-op. Because it's just
Yikes.
The difficulty doesn't scale, because it's not really like a scaling difficulty game. But now you just have 4 times as many man hours to put to tasks during the day.
Yeah.
So we got to a point of like with of progression on your farm and money that it normally took me until the end of the 3rd season to get by halfway through the 1st season.
Oh, God. Just
because you've got 4 people running around doing stuff. And it's all, and what interested me was, you have the option of doing like a joint pool of money.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of forced to run decisions and spending by each other. Okay, who needs more storage right now? Who actually needs the larger backpack? Because I can go buy it because I'm in the store and we have the money, but I don't actually need it because I'm just doing farming stuff, so I don't actually carry around a lot.
Yeah.
Who do we need to buy this for? And that part of it was really interesting. And Stardew Valley is just still a great game, and it's still a lot of fun.
You made a strong case for free labor, Andy.
I did. Well, no, what I'm talking not about is free labor, but about communism. I'm talking about collectivism.
Oh, fair point.
We all do better if we specialize and combine our efforts. One person does farming, one person goes off to the mine, one person does fishing, one person fucks about and picks grapes, and then everyone comes back at the end of the day with everything that they've gained, and they pool the resources and say, okay, look at what we've got now.
You ever watch Future Man?
Yeah, I did.
The second season where like the one husband is like, I do everything. It's like oh yeah, I'm like the stick whittler, and I'm the bread pan maker, and this guy's like, I do everything.
Thankfully, we haven't gotten to that point yet. Everyone still feels like they're doing the.
That would be my concern playing Stardew Valley with a group of people.
It's kind of hard because just the natural specialization you fall into all is well balanced. It's all worth doing. So you can't have like one guy who's just like if you were playing Minecraft and one guy was just building statues. And he's like, yeah, the place looks nicer, but like we were mining shit, and this guy was building a rail to get us to and from places, and this person was cooking, and you're just building statues. Like,
yeah, did we really need a roller coaster right now? we don't even have roofs.
Everything in Stardew Valley is balanced from a single player perspective to be worth putting your time into. So when you just add 4 people into it, it goes very well.
Yeah, yeah.
So that been playing a decent amount of that. That's still a great game. And then CS:GO, because I just, these days just you feel like you want to shoot stuff sometimes. You got to let out that aggression.
Yeah.
In healthy ways, and CS:GO is a game that exists that I own.
Are you enjoying, like, every time I watch people play it, I'm like, I could never have fun playing this game, and when I play it, I'm like, I'll never have fun playing this game. What draws you to this game?
Playing online with people is garbage.
Yeah, okay.
The planting a bomb and that mode is horrible. But the mode that they have that I really enjoy is a mode called Arms Race.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this has existed in other games. I don't know what it's traditionally called, but everyone starts off at the same level with the same gun, which is one of the higher up, better guns. And every kill you get, it swaps you to the next worst gun until you finally have to make your final kill and win the match with a knife.
That is a very cool mode, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it actually, playing through that mode and playing through the matches that the maps that were created for that, it reminded me of playing old FPSs, stuff like Time Splitters or Unreal Tournament, or early days of like Quake and Quake 2 Deathmatch or Perfect Dark, where you had these interesting multiplayer modes that were actually that weren't realistic. They weren't super tactical team based. They were just, here's a crazy thing. Here's an idea we came up with for weird multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I liked a lot of those modes in games, and they don't exist anymore. The idea of, there was an article I read a while ago on Game Sutra. This is probably like going back 6-7 years, about how achievements and online multiplayer ruined the idea of custom games and mutators.
What's the argument there?
Well, basically that you used to have mutators that would be things like, or custom games like Scout's Knives in CS:GO. Like, that would just be a thing that people would on their own decide, this is just how I want to set up my server. It's a weird setup, but I like it. It's fun. Scouts, Knives, low grav, and we're going to only do these 3 maps. And now that's like an achievement you'd get and a specific multiplayer mode you'd play ranked. And because you've got more online things, and you've got achievements that point you to, here are the fun, creative things to do in this game. Here is the wacky thing you can do in this level.
Yeah.
It got rid of, what they were saying was that it got rid of a lot of that, like, culture of finding weird ways to play through things, because they were already intentionally laid out for you by achievements.
Right. Yeah, I can see that argument to a certain extent, but I mean, so I've definitely always been of the camp where achievements in multiplayer is definitely stupid. I think, and to Call of Duty's credits, they've, to my knowledge, never done achievements for multiplayer mode. They've only done them for campaign. And they do like separate like medals and stuff that just sort of like, I've gotten 10,000 knife kills, like that's kind of cool, right? And everyone's like, we don't care.
Yeah.
So like I feel like that's sort of the right way to do it, but yeah, forcing people to do kitschy bullshit.
It's the kind of stuff that you see as like achievements in TF2, where it's like, kill this guy with this gun and then take a screenshot after it, and while doing this taunt.
Completely unnecessary.
We're gonna call it this is a Steve, and you get to do that, and then you get the achievement and you unlock this thing. It's like, well, that's I think back to like the days of like people crouch stacking on top of each other to break out of skyboxes, and like that those are interesting explorations that don't exist anymore, or interesting game modes that, because you can't set up your own dedicated servers anymore. For a lot of games, you can't make weird mutators to try out new stuff and weird mods.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a trade-off, because there's a lot of better things that happened from hosted servers and like organized ranked ladders. Like, there's a lot of good that came from that as well.
I think a lot of that is like sort of the tribulations of youth. Like, would I ever sit around and try and like map glitch in Halo 2 ever again? It's like, no, I have 1,000 other games to play. Why would I be fucking like rocket jumping up a map in a game that I only play for like 4 hours a day? I felt like I did that stuff more when I was younger, and I only had 2 games to play, and I had to make the most out of those. I think it could still happen. I think it's sort of more that the torch has been handed down to a different generation than we've aged out of sort of the custom game modes and trying to experience a lot of things.
I think, but you look at a game like games that are extremely popular, stuff like League, Dota, Fortnite, things that are very heavily centrally controlled.
Yeah.
You don't have 300 custom games of Fortnite with weird maps, and this map is sniper rifles only, and this map is all vehicles, and this map low grav. Like, that's all controlled by Epic as they roll out new seasons with new gimmicks. Which is cool, that they're adding new stuff, but it also means that, like, you know, Timmy, the 8th grader, can't go fuck around with INI files and realize that he just accidentally made a cool mod.
Right.
And spread that around to people, because that's not possible in that game.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think of Blizzard's whole, money pouch grab thing that they pulled recently.
Yeah, so not to just lament and say everything was better in the past, because clearly I'm not playing those older games. The oldest thing I'm playing is CS:GO. I'm not out there trying to install a emulated version of Time Splitters or something to go play against monkeys with Tommy guns. But anyways, you got a fireside chat for us?
Yeah. Hey Andy, how's it going?
Not that we didn't just do one, essentially.
Yeah, we're gonna gripe about something else. What was the most shocking game you've played, or the first game that comes to mind?
Shocking. Oh. The most shocking game I can remember was... I'm going to give 2 answers here. Because one of the most frightened I've been of a game was a scene in a game called The Pandora Directive, which is an old FMV adventure game, where they showed... it's kind of like there's this jump scare reveal of a corpse covered in maggots.
Ooh.
In FMV, and it scared the crap out of me as like a 10-year-old kid. But I think the most shocked I've been from a game was watching my younger, not nephew, what's the word I'm looking for? Cousin, playing Manhunt when he got it for Christmas, and I'd never seen the game before.
You said he's younger?
Yes, only like 2 years younger than me. But just watching him play Manhunt, thinking like, Jesus Christ, what is this game?
It's too goddamn much.
Yeah, it was... I thought I was hard, but I was not. I was not ready for it.
I've never actually played Manhunt, but I know that it was mostly shock value, so...
Yeah,
that definitely fits in this category.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I ended up buying it, a couple months later, and playing it myself, and it's fine. Once you get past the shock value, it's a C+ game.
What do you make of all these stupid rumors about all of Rockstar's different new games? I have to imagine they're just having the time of their life right now, like updating all of their old games' websites and watching everyone freak the fuck out as, like, Grand Theft Auto 6's webpage redirecting to a new page. There's the Manhunt 2 page is being updated, and everyone's like, "There's a new game confirmed."
This is just the best market research they've ever been able to do. All they need to do is just to update a page. Like, oh look, we noticed that the date timestamp here in this image has slightly more fuzz on it. What does that mean? Everyone go fucking nuts. And thousands of threads and conversations happening. And okay, we did one for Rockstar Table Tennis, and it was only about 20 threads, so move that down the list. But Manhunt, that got 600. Sure. Move that up. But that was mostly think pieces about what would a shocking game like Manhunt be like in 2020. So maybe not worth doing.
That's like the best thing too. Is like the circulation just won't stop about like all 3 of these different games. I'm including Bully 2, and they were like ages ago. They're like, yeah, we're a 1-game studio now, and everyone's like, there's 3 games confirmed. It's madness.
It's and Bully 2 surprises me as well, just because there's an anecdote I remember hearing, I think from Jim Sterling's podcast, regarding the game Guitaru Man.
Sure.
And It was a conversation with the developer of Guitaru Man or the director of it, and his line was, "Everyone loves Guitaru Man. Nobody bought Guitaru Man." And games like Bully 2 and Wonderful 101 and things like that, when I hear about those being remade or remastered, or why won't they bring those back, that sentence comes into my head. Everyone loved Wonderful 101. Nobody bought Wonderful 101.
I'm sure that's what happened with Shenmue 3 as well. It's like, but you demanded this game. Every single one of you demanded it. It's like, well... $60 is a lot of money.
Every one of us watched our older brothers play it on the Dreamcast. None of us had ever actually played it before. We only watched our friends and older brothers play it.
It's true. I had only watched that stupid video that they cut together of both games.
Yep, that's it. No one had ever actually gotten their hands on it, so we all imagined it was going to be this amazing. Like, oh, this is kind of trash.
They only cut like 20 copies, circulated them to the media. Now we just find them in Goodwill every once in a while.
Now, what about you? What's your answer to the original question that you asked? Most shocking. That's what it was.
Most shocking. I'm gonna go a different way because I don't really play many horror games because I'm a poo poo pee pee baby. I think one of the, one of the most shocking things I ever did in a game was probably in Sleeping Dogs, where you play as an undercover policeman, but you straight up just like slam people's heads onto table saws, like on table saws, and it's just like, this isn't okay, but I can't stop doing it. All I want to do is slam people's heads into these table saws that are apparently strewn around fucking Hong Kong like goddamn discarded banana peels.
There's so much good work to be done.
I mean, that's a big city.
Yeah.
But I had a weird thought, but I'll talk about that after. Anyway, yeah, I could never really get past. Like, every time I did it, I was like, "You're a policeman, stop doing this." But then I'd slam that button so hard.
It was so viscerally satisfying.
Yeah, it really was. That game's one of the best open world games. Please play it if you haven't. Another moment was like more just sort of like twist shock, I guess, was the end of Assassin's Creed 2, when that like precursor race god starts speaking directly to like the person you're playing outside of the game, and not like the character you're playing in the game, because obviously all the Assassin's Creeds take place in not simulated worlds, but like remembered worlds, I guess would be the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah, that was a really neat moment. That was back when they were really doing interesting stuff with that story.
Yeah, it's gone to the shitter now for sure, but that was like one of the coolest moments that like solidified me as an Assassin's Creed fan, because like didn't give too much of a shit about 1, and I played through all of 2, and I was like, this game's great, and then like that moment was just like like just stamped it into my fucking body, and now I've played like 95% of all Assassin's Creed games, because like I'm just a fan now. Like that cemented it.
Yeah, it's I was not even as huge of a fan as you are in Assassin's Creed games, and I can remember that moment very clearly as one of the best moments in the Assassin's Creed Tooniverse. What was it, that
the
trilogy?
The Ezio trilogy,
exactly. The Ezio trilogy is being one of the best moments and best crazy reveals in there, because they tried it again in Brotherhood and then in Revelations to try and do similar moments, and it just didn't happen as well.
Yeah, and they really just went for plot twists after that. They didn't try to actually 4D brain bend anything, make cool moments. They were just like, oh, someone's gonna betray you. This is the person that betrayed you. Whoa! Those are the two moments that came to mind. I'm sure if you've played horror games, though, there's probably things that jump out more for you.
All right, you ready to start talking about that game that you mentioned earlier? Blood 2, was it?
Slay the Spire?
And it was Blood 2. You're going to talk about Blood 2, that FPS from like 1997 that was really good?
2. No, we'll talk about Blood 1, but we don't talk about Blood 2.
Oh, man.
Why can't we talk about Black? Bleeding Edge.
Sorry,
Ninja Theory's latest
just black. I mean, I liked it, but no one talks about it.
I remember. Oh. Bleeding Edge. Hopefully somebody will remember this in a few years. Bleeding Edge is Ninja Theory's little pet project. I think they're selling it pretty cheap, maybe $30. It's an online, what I thought was going to be a melee-centric game, what I thought was going to be a fast-paced multiplayer game. It's neither of the above. Basically, it takes place in this world where you play as one of many super modded humans, because mods have run amok and they've opened themselves for limitless character design, basically. And you pick one of these weirdos and you get into an arena with them and you do objectives for some reason. There's not much story, so I've pretty much covered it all.
Is this like in arena combat? Is this like Agents of Fury, whatever the hell that game was that Volition
Mayhem?
Agents of Mayhem?
I never played
Is this like that?
I think it's probably closest, and you're going to love this, it's probably the closest game I've ever seen to Battleborn.
Oh, God. I was going to ask if it's the closest to Brink, so you and I were on similar pages.
Yeah, I mean, I played Brink about the same way I played this, in that I played it as much as I could stand before I could not stand it no more.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So I'm going to go over the positives before I lose our audience here, because there's a lot of negatives. Ooh. Like I said, the character designs are really cool. This whole modded universe gave them basically unlimited, sort of dystopian opportunities to present weird characters, like Dr. something who's now in the body of a snake, and the snake controls his old corpse because his body died, or the Russian girl with the chicken legs, or the fat lady with the bike. So the design is cool. Their biographies are scant. Like I said, the story is very limited, but the game is centrally based around two different objective-style multiplayer. And the game's entirely multiplayer. I don't even know if I said that. It's objective-based, and that's one of the major problems I have with the game, is that because it's objective-based, you sort of have open-ended, sort of get in this giant arena and go where you want and try and do the objectives, because they'll have multiple ones spawning, and then sometimes there'll only be like one, like King of the Hill style is one of the types. So it'll be like, oh, there's only one spawning, so everyone has to go to that one and fight. Or, pick up canisters and then hand them in at the specific time. The idea is there. The design of the game is there. The art is all there. Like, you can tell it was made by like a smart pedigreed studio. The game is not fun for one single minute. I never had that aha moment where I was like, I can see where I could sink a lot of time into this game. Or like, oh yeah, I could get into this, but I'm not going to because I already play too much Dota. So there was nothing even remotely close to that feeling. The entire strategy of the game is you're playing in a 4v4 arena.
Okay.
It's way too big. If you separate at all from your group, you're going to die. If you leave before the rest of your group spawns, which means you're just running in a circle for, up to 30 seconds, you're going to die. Basically, whoever wins the first team fight in all my experiences and didn't completely ignore the objectives, because the objectives are still important, but they're irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But whoever won that first fight would typically just be in control for the entire fight unless somebody was out of position at any one point. So that's like something you want a game to sort of cater that as sort of a high-end strategy, like in MOBAs. If you're playing and running around the map as 5 people from minute 0, you're going to do yourself a huge disservice. But there's a certain point in the game where you want to be with the rest of your team, and you want to be team fighting. This game, if you're not doing that for any one single second, like, you're just dead meat, because there's no hero in the game that you can feel like a superhero with, where you can run in and get a gank and then run back out and be like, heh, sort of like the Genji effect from Overwatch.
Sure.
In this game, the strategy is very simple. Always be 4 people, win the first fight, don't ignore objectives. You're going to win literally every game.
I'll be honest, this isn't sounding great, but I feel like you're burying the lead here. And I feel like this is something that we need to address before we can get any further, because it seems like, and correct me wrong, that my options for fighters may or may not include being a dolphin in a walking tank, like a fish tank, or a cybernetic snake that's in possession of a zombie.
Yeah, more or less. That dolphin character is not even out yet, I don't think.
I'm just angry now.
I mean, I understand. I understand completely. I played around with every character at least once, and I couldn't find a character that super clicked with me, so I stuck with this character Gizmo, which is not a melee character. Let it be noted, because this game was definitely marketed to me as a melee game. It's not a melee game, because there's like almost half the heroes are ranged.
Gizmo is this one that looks like a 80s roller derby girl?
Yeah, exactly. She's Australian. She does range damage. She has some bots that she can drop and shoot. But she, like, just like every other hero in the game, she tickles and does 0 damage unless you're in a group. And then she helps kill somebody. But man, 1v1 combat in this game is just not fun. Like, not at all.
This is a real shame, because I may be the only person that you could say it's like Battleborn, and I just perk up. Oh, is it? Is it like Battleborn? Okay. Maybe me and the other 5 people who played that game can find a new place to hang out.
That's what I want to make clear, is like, I didn't enjoy the game, but there might be people out there that do. So I'm going to give you my experience as someone who really likes games like Overwatch and Dota. The entire time I was playing, I was like, man, I could really go for some Overwatch right now, because everything wrong about this game, like, Overwatch does correctly. And they're not even the same genre. It's, like, simple stuff. Like, the heroes would jump around everywhere if they had any lag, so it's suddenly you're like, it's completely jarring experience. In a melee game, that's not acceptable. Like, with the ranged heroes, you're basically locked on. It's not like skill shooters like Overwatch would be. You're still locked on, but they'll, like, jump around and then suddenly be around a corner, and you'll be like, how do I plan for that? The melee heroes are sort of based on combos, so you have to, like, get in and start whacking them, and they have to evade out and use their stamina to, like, stop getting thwacked, basically, which can be trickier than it sounds, but is ultimately not fun, because typically there's almost every hero has enough mobility where they can just get back into another combo with you. And again, if you're not with 3 other people, then you're fucking dead meat no matter what anyway. Just I've never seen a situation in my handful of games where a team of 3 could overwhelm a team of 4. But in a game like Overwatch, that could easily happen if you had the skill to do it, the right hero comp, etc., etc., etc.
And it's not like you're playing in a game where you're at a huge skill deficit because you're just jumping into a competitive scene that's been around for 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is a brand new game. This just came out last week, didn't it?
Yes. No, it came out this week. It came out 2 days ago, I think. And I'm already done with it. That's why I'm going over it now on the podcast. I assumed I'd be playing it for longer time.
Well, fucking take that, Ninja Theory.
Yeah, I will not talk shit about the developer. This is actually the first game I've played by Ninja Theory, I think.
Ever,
yeah.
Really?
I never played DMC. I still haven't played Hellblade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't judge you. I only played a bit of DMC. Oh, you never wait. You never played Enslaved?
No.
Oh, fucking
Odyssey of the
get
Mind or something?
Get off the podcast. Go play Enslaved. Like,
oh no, you're canceling me?
this is you're
just like America.
Oh, Enslaved is so good. That's a game that's worth playing. And I heard Heavenly Sword's all right too. But like Enslaved, that was a top-notch game.
Man, you know what I hear about Enslaved?
What's that?
Everyone loves Enslaved.
Nobody bought Enslaved. Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true.
I really should. I've heard very good things about that game.
Yeah, that was a really fun one of those linear action combat platformers that they don't make anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there really aren't enough of those anymore.
Yeah. Sorry to hear about Bleeding Edge, though. That's
yeah.
That's
hey,
gonna...
I have a few more criticisms.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Please continue.
Oh no, I have my notes page is so sad to look at because there's one positive and it's like 80% of the page is just negatives. So because the arenas are so big, you have like a mount aspect similar to, I guess, Paladins. Have you played that?
I did play a bit of Paladins, yes.
Yeah, you know how they like make the maps so stupidly big and poorly designed that they're just like, well, here's a mount, we solved that problem, moving on. This game does that too. If you're a skinny hero, you get a hoverboard. If you're a fat hero, you get something else.
Because the hoverboard couldn't carry the fat heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
It's very discriminating. So like that leads into that aspect. Like the maps don't need to be this big. Overwatch somehow figured out how to make big, continuous, like snaky maps and like have new respawn sections or more interesting ideas. And this game really suffers when you are on a mount and you're a weaker hero, and then you try and go into battle, and then all your teammates go away, but you're on your mount and you get hit once, and then you are dead. You're 100% dead. Like, who's that fun for? Like,
yeah, that just sounds like it's wasting your time.
Yeah, exactly. What else? Yeah, it's just it doesn't feel fast paced either because like the nature of the combat, it doesn't want you to die immediately, which means that unless you're in complete 4v4 combat, it never feels epic. It just feels like you're slowly killing another enemy as they wait for reinforcements, but the reinforcements never show up in time.
So you don't get that moment of like, aha, due to planning or luck, I've got the drop on you, and you can't react fast enough, therefore I've won. Exactly. Like a very quick, like, I did it, here's that moment, and now we move on.
Exactly. I never had that feeling.
No.
Yeah. You also get losses for when you never get a full team, because it won't just end the lobby if it doesn't find people. So on my second match, I sat waiting for 10 minutes while it was searching for people, but people kept dropping out, and then they'd pick up another person, and then we'd wait a couple minutes, and then they drop out. You can't just leave because the game hasn't started. It straight up is like, if you leave now, you're getting a loss. And you're like, what the fuck? This isn't even a game. This is just a lobby that you forced me into.
This does sound like Battleborn.
Yeah.
That was like what Battleborn was at the end, of just sitting there trying to get a full game together and then never getting there.
Yeah. And it straight up shows up as a loss in your win rate. So like, I guarantee that the global average win rate's probably like 35%, just because people are getting losses for leaving matches because they don't want to sit there for half an hour.
What a horrible decision.
Yeah. The voice acting's complete rubbish. Oh my god, I don't know what happened. If most of the characters, even like of different ethnicities, everyone just sounded like a white nerd if they were male, or just a chipper lady if they were a female. Like I like the main character. It was this character like Demon.
Yeah, he's the one I saw in all the marketing for it.
Yeah, he is a truly ungood voice actor, especially for the role, because he's supposed to be like this like edgy New Yorker, and he's like in his ult is like he throws it down and he's like, darkness comes from the shadows, and you're like, oh no. There's a Brazilian guy that has like a very similar effect where you're like, oh man, did they get all of their fucking like English actors from Ottawa? Like, this is not great.
I'm just like cringing at even imagining it. That sounds so
darkness
painful.
comes from the shadows. It's painful. I've done enough griping. I have more notes, but fuck that.
It's just so disappointing, because there needs to be more games in this space that actually do a good job, and Ninja Theory seemed like a competent team. What happened?
Like I said, I think it was a pet project for them. I think Hellblade's probably their next major project, but they wanted to sort of branch out, maybe become like a 3-team company and learn how to do multiplayer. So this, to me, felt like a test game. Maybe one that they shouldn't have put on the market, but ultimately they had the luxury of being under Microsoft now, so they're just like, well, shit, we can just make this game. Our funding's not a problem, and then we can slap it on Game Pass, and people will play it, and they will play it, and a lot of people will enjoy it, but I was not one of them.
That is a pretty straightforward and direct and cutting summary.
Yeah, I didn't want to mince words on this one. I really wanted to enjoy it. I played it over 4 different sittings. I played it on 2 different consoles. I tried it on PC and Xbox.
You were very generous to this game.
I wanted to be more generous. I had allotted something like 10 hours to this game, like to make sure I understood it thoroughly, and I physically couldn't bring myself to play it anymore.
Man, you are doing way more than I am when it comes to games that I don't like.
Well, ultimately I didn't do that much. Anyway,
still.
Any final questions?
Was the robot snake taking over a voodoo guy's body? Was it cool? It sounds like it should be cool.
Well, no, it was. I don't know. I kind of liked the design. Like, that was the most out there one. Like, that one, like, just looking at the character made me go in and read the bio for it. I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool bio. It's like he was literally like a doctor professor at Cambridge, and he was really into voodoo, and that was like the entire thing. And I was like, well, they definitely could have done more with this.
There's a tablet game that my son plays to learn phonics, and one of the bad guys, I think's name is Dr. Snakes. And
Dr. Snakes. Perfect.
So I'm going to now associate the two in my head. This little, like, I think it's Dr. Snakes or maybe Dr. Tentacle, but I'm going with Dr. Snakes as the antagonist in this little phonics game on the Kindle Fire, and this character in the brand new Bleeding Edge from Ninja Theory.
Yeah, Microsoft bought the rights for Dr. Snakes.
It's such a good character. You can't beat. It's
an amazing name.
It is, Dr. Snake. Like, it's ridiculous.
Gamer tag getting changed.
I'm all for it. It's like, it feels like it should be an old Batman villain.
Game Off featuring Solitalker and Dr. Snakes.
Yeah, though. Damn it, I should have claimed it. All right, well, that's fair. That's fair. You got there first.
Got him. Shall we talk about Elderborn?
I guess I can talk about Elderborn for a couple
minutes.
What
the hell is Elderborn?
So Elderborn is a game that apparently was in early access since 2018. I had no idea. I just saw that it came out in January. And it's kind of like someone tried to make a first-person Dark Souls.
Okay.
With okay combat.
That's not okay.
Like, it's not amazing combat. It's
Sinner.
It's not like, I'm trying to think of a game that has really good first-person melee combat, and maybe they don't exist. I'm sure someone's done it.
Skyrim's is okay.
You know, if you thought Skyrim's first-person melee combat was okay, Elderborn might be a game for you. So
it was okay.
You're a guy that starts off in a dark area, and you pick up an old sword like you do in a Souls-like, and you fight some old skeletons or what do you call them, or a zombie dude, like hollowed out people, the generic early enemies in a Souls-like in a fantasy realm.
Reanimated boys.
Yeah, you kill them and they drop souls, and you collect them and you bring them back to a fountain, and then you use the souls to upgrade yourself and to heal yourself. But when you use the fountain, all the guys around you spawn again. Like, you know all this. This is all just a Souls-like, right?
Yep. You've explained Dark Souls 1 through 10.
Yep, I've explained
all future Dark Souls.
Yeah, that's it. I've explained every Souls-like game. You know all that. The difference with this is the level design is a bit more linear. So it's not this big open environment that you're slowly working your way through and it keeps double backing on itself. Like a Dark Souls. it's more linear, like you're going from this fountain to the next one, almost like more like checkpoints. And there are some levels that are orchestrated in more of a hub setting, where there's a central area and you need to get the 5 keys to open the last gate, and there are 5 paths you can go down to get those keys. So you go down one, you get the key, you come back, you go on that setup. Which I think was very common in like mid 2000s and early 2000s linear FPSs. But that's still the same thing of just go down the path, get the key, come back to the center. There's checkpoint fountains all along the way. I'm just trying to get all of the generic stuff out of the way. Because it's sounding very boring right now, I'm sure.
Yeah. Reminds me of PS2 games.
Yeah, there is a bit of that to it. As far as that design goes, what it does well, and what I enjoyed, and why I put what did I put into it? 18 hours into this game. It was worth it. Is that the combat is quick. So you die a lot, like in a Souls-like, but you get into it, you're dead in an encounter very quickly. There are some Souls-like games I've played where, because things just like stun lock you, or you get into the wrong part of an enemy's rhythm, you're gonna die, but you have to wait for their attack pattern to finish. So you missed it, but all right, well and he hits, jump hit, stab, and then I'm
soda.
Yeah, like that. Like, no, this is like you're done. You went to go fight the rock scorpion. You didn't parry it right. You're fucking done. It's done. They have some weapons. You have a variety of weapons that you pick up: swords and spears and dual scythes, little sickles, whatever you call that in fantasy games, where you have 2 of them and you go real fast with them.
Akimbo?
Yeah, but like they have like the two sickles, that thing. A big fuck off hammer that you just smash
dualicles.
Dualicles. You got the dualicles, you got the big fuck off hammer that you smash guys with.
Yeah.
Your standard fantasy fare. And some of them you can block attacks with, and they just, you've got like a stamina block thing where you hit and you block, but if you block too much, you start taking damage anyways because you took too many blocks in a row. And then some of the weapons you can parry with, and that will slow down time and allow you to get in a couple of really good hits. Or it'll reflect ranged attacks back at the person who shot them at you. Which is cool. And in a first-person environment, that's fun. Skeletons are shooting bows at you, and you're blocking it back, and it's going back, and it's hitting them. It's dead. It's great. The slowing down of time, and the fact that when if you're being attacked by 3 guys, and you parry that attack, you're now just doing extra damage to everyone for a short period of time, which is not that what I've seen in a lot of games. Usually it's like you can do a counter attack and that does more damage, but this is more just like you parried, you're just a god for 10 seconds. Just fucking ruin people. Doesn't matter if they were even near you when you parried. You're just super psyched that you parried a guy and everyone's gonna die.
Is this a special ability, or is this just a core mechanic?
That's just how parrying works in the game.
Okay.
In the game, you parry, and you're just so happy that you're just gonna fucking stab everyone in the face, and it's gonna do just extra damage.
It Parry Lord, then.
Yeah, Parry Lord, Parry Magic, Parry Rage. I don't know. It's
Big Parry Boys, Resurrection.
When you got that big Matthew Perry mood, and you're just like, could I be any more of a tank and just stabbing people? But it's terrible. Danielle, cut that joke out.
No. Vetoed.
Damn it.
I don't think I have that power.
I definitely don't. So, yeah, you go through, and it's like, it's good. It's a good game.
It's good.
I like
18 hours of good?
I like this game. It's been great for, like, in this ever-changing world in which we're living, where I'm just looking for something to just put on a podcast and just stab a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, that's the way of the new world.
You get the big fuck-off hammer, and it blocks attacks so good. And then there are these ninja guys that come flip up at you, and you just swat them out of the air. and they go flying off of ledges. They smack into walls.
That's kind of dope.
It's very viscerally appealing, but you die a lot. You die because it's a Souls-like, so you die a lot, and the penalty's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not like Souls-like where you're like, oh, I lost. It's like, who cares? It's just go out and kill 10 guys, and you've got enough to level up something again.
Yeah. That's how the Surge was too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck it. Who cares?
It's a low stakes Souls-like.
Yeah.
You go back to the fountain and just heal yourself a little bit and fight him again, because it's a fight time.
Yeah, enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
no need to be stressed. These are dire times. It's
a Souls-like, but we don't have to get all crazy with it.
So I'm trying. For some reason, I keep picturing this game as like one of those. I forget what you call them, like the dungeon crawlers where you're moving block to block.
Oh yeah, like Legends of Grimoire, that more recent.
Yeah,
one.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly how I'm picturing the game, because you said first person, but is it more like Skyrim?
Yeah.
How is it compared to Skyrim?
It's more like Skyrim. If imagine Fallout without guns, is kind of what it's like.
That's Skyrim. You just described Skyrim. How is it unlike Skyrim? Let's start there.
Your draw distance is smaller. It's not open world.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing to do in
Fair.
the area other than fight things. So there's no like doors to, there's no place to explore for. It's just go fight, go do more fighting. And
do you think the game would have benefited from being more open world?
Nah, I think it did. I think it did well at what it did. Did you ever play Hexen in the mid-90s? No? Okay. Because if you did, that would help me a lot here, as far as making references.
Well, would it help anyone else that's listening to this? I guess they can have Google.
If anyone
compare it and
if
Google
anyone
Hexen.
out there played Hexen or Hexen 2, I guess it's kind of like that. Hexen 2 wasn't very good, but it's kind of has that feel of it. Like it's just you're in first person. You're not switching out weapons too often because there's not a ton of them, and you kind of get it's like, you get into one play style and you're happy with it.
Mm.
I got these things.
Yeah.
They're like things you put over your hands, and they're knives. Like it's
like Valdo.
Yeah, it's like Voldo. You're like Voldo, and you just got like two knife hands, and you just stab at guys real fast.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Now I want to play this game.
It's cool. That part was fun. I'm describing this like an idiot.
No, I'm with you. You can wear bondage gear and stab people like Valdo.
Yeah, it's a Voldo simulator, essentially, but without the crab walking. If you can imagine being Voldo but not crab walking,
the point?
You're right. You can't. You don't talk. There's no dialogue. The music
just picture a first-person Valdo game where you're staring straight at the sky all the time. It's a terrible game. Please don't make this.
I want, if someone could just like, and because I don't know anything about anything, I'm gonna describe this in a way that's functionally impossible. If someone could just mod Soul Calibur so the camera is attached to Voldo's head, just so I can see how is just that nauseating movement.
Oh my god, yeah. There's weird guttural noises coming from every angle.
God, he's an amazing character. Why don't more? No one's brave enough to do things like Voldo. Everyone's doing cute stuff like what you described of a dolphin and a walking tank and a serpent, Dr. Snake Man. But
Dr. Snakes.
I want weird bondage death man with knife hands. That's what I want.
Yeah. Long gone are the glory days of edgy character design.
This is it's got a lot of feeling of older games, a late 90s, late 2000s feel of just like there's a story here, but you don't care because the game's about kicking dudes into pits. You can kick people, and you can kick them off ledges, which is really satisfying.
So we're edging closer to like Doom territory, where it's like, what is the story to Doom, and do you care enough to stop, kicking demons' faces off? And the answer is usually no. I don't care.
Did you ever play Dark Messiah of Might and Magic?
No.
God damn it!
This isn't my genre.
I know, but there's not a lot to compare. Did you ever play PsyOps: The Mindgate Conspiracy?
Fuck off! How do you name drop that game every episode? You're a wizard.
This has got like, it's very entertaining to get into an area and just kick people off of ledges. Like, there are whole sections of that game where I didn't fight, I just kicked people into pits.
Yeah.
And it felt, because when they die,
sounds nice.
The souls that they would have dropped just spawn where you knocked them off of the wall. So you can still pick up everything. You get the same reward from kicking them off into the pit, but you don't have to fight them. You just keep kicking them over and over again. And then some of the guys will put up their shield, and because you can just keep kicking. There's nothing, you can just do it as much as you want.
Isn't that the melee attack in the original Doom? Just putting up a big boot in front of your face?
No, the melee attack, you're thinking of Duke Nukem 3D. That had the boot.
That
had the boot. No, Doom had the chainsaw. And
so this is just a Duke Nukem 3D in fantasy space?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that does it a disservice, because it doesn't have like I'm going to pee on things humor.
Oh.
And I don't.
Would you say it would have benefited from that?
If I had the option to pee on things whenever I wanted, like in Postal, then maybe this would have been a more entertaining game. Yeah, maybe I would be giving it a 95 instead of a 92. But it's a very visceral, very relaxing game. The weapons and the environments, the enemy design are all your standard. There's an Egyptian-themed area. There's caves. There's an even deeper, spookier cave. There's catacombs. There's scorpions, and it's all there. You already know what this game looks like. You haven't seen it, and you know what it looks like. You can envision it in your mind's eye because it's just. But it's there. It's good. It's fine.
Just psyop the Mindgate conspiracy.
I've psyops the Mindgate conspiracy into your brain, so you know what it sounds like and it feels like.
That's a dope ability.
Yeah, it's
what level do you get that at?
Oh man,
in a game I assume is an RPG, but I have no idea.
This one or psyops?
Psyop. Oh, actually, that's a good question. Is there RPG mechanics to this, like leveling up, abilities, all that?
Kind of. It does that thing where, like in a Souls, like where you get back to the fountain campfire, and you can take the souls that you've earned and put a point towards something, but it's just like strength, speed, and it's basically damage, attack, speed, and health are the three things you can put points to.
Is it like satisfying upgrades, or is it just like eventually this will pay off?
I mean, some of them, like when you get certain ones up to level 5, it'll give you an ability to. I'm trying to think of what any of the abilities were. They weren't all that exciting. They were fine. Getting the attack speed up definitely felt good. And in a game like this, I almost always go for attack speed because that always feels more viscerally damaging than just putting it into brute strength. And especially with parrying, like getting fast parrying is really good. The one problem I will say with this game, and I don't know that this would have been intentional, but maybe they just didn't. It'll cue moves. So if you parry and then you hit parry again during your parry animation, it does a second parry when it's over.
Oh, that's awful.
Or if you have a slow attack, like with your big fuck off hammer, and then you go to block afterward, it just cues all that up. And it took me a long time. It took me like 2 hours to get out of the mindset that you do of like Skyrim first-person combat where, I failed blocking, just keep spamming block. Because it'll get in there eventually. It's like, no, you gotta back away. It's got dashing. Like that kind of like, rather than rolling, you just dash backwards or forwards in different directions.
Okay.
So you use that for like dodging and getting around people and hitting them in the back with hammers. But yeah, you have to kind of relearn how you do first-person combat in a way. Because I'm just so used to it from games like Skyrim, the hell's it? Mountain Blade. I'm sure other first-person combat games. What was that one? Xenoclash? Remember that one?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah.
I never played that.
Yeah, I don't really remember it much. I'm just really scraping at the bottom of the barrel for Vermintide. Fucking Warhammer Vermintide. That's a modern first-person melee combat game.
I thought that was the one that was like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, but it's all melee. You got like swords and shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I put a lot of time into that game. I don't think I liked it. And into the sequel. I don't think I liked that one either.
We all pay our dues, Andy.
Yeah.
We don't have to like everything. We just need to submit.
So I'd recommend Eden Forge, Elderborne. There it is.
Eden Forge.
I'd recommend
The blind gaping conspicuous.
I'd recommend Elderborne. It's $15. It's got a pretty
budget game.
rockin' soundtrack. It's very easy to play while listening to a podcast or listening to its awesome soundtrack, which I don't do. I don't listen to music in games. But if you did, you could do that.
All right, well, that's a solid recommendation for the night.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, and if you have Game Pass, no harm in checking out Bleeding Edge.
Literally, no one will harm you for doing it. We can't stop you legally.
So I think we should rank these games.
Yes.
I'm gonna start.
All right.
I'm gonna put Bleeding Edge at number 2.
Okay.
Because we've just started a new year.
If we had a following, and they were smart, the developers of Elderborne, whose names I'm going to look up, Hyperstrange, that's it, would be able to say right now, hey, Elderborne, Game Off Podcast's #1 game at a time.
#1 game of the year. We're already 3 months into the year.
3 months into the year, game of the year for a time.
At least temporarily.
Temporarily, but they held that spot. If they screenshot the rankings now and crop them tastefully,
if we expose them to the internet,
yeah,
in any way, shape, or form.
So I'll put Elderborne at #1.
Very, very generous of you. That space was looking a bit sad and empty.
Well done, Hyperstrange.
#1 game of the year thus far.
One game of the year, and I could give you a preview of just some of the games I've played so far. You're not at risk.
Okay, that's interesting because you got some big games coming up in the weeks.
I do, but you guys aren't. You'll be fine. Just don't worry about rushing to get that screenshot. You're okay.
What else is going on with the podcast before we sign off? If you haven't, episode 26 is out now. That's our 2019 tournament champions. It's also why we're starting 2020
Why are you
games.
being weird and listening to this episode first?
Well,
I'm just. It's a bit of a call out.
Don't discourage people. Don't call them weird. We love all of our listeners.
I don't like people who just start a new podcast and start at whatever the most recent episode is. I think it's insane.
It is for the most part, but at some point we're gonna get to like 500 episodes, and somebody's gonna look at this and be like, "I'm not starting."
I go back. I start at the beginning.
That's like 550 fucking hours.
I go back. I start at the beginning. It's just you can't not. Because podcasts create their own world, and they have their own language, and there's all these.
But if we're talking about 2015 games, and people are like, "What the hell is PsyOps the Mindgate Conspiracy? This game came out 30 years ago."
People aren't gonna know how important PsyOps the Mindgate Conspiracy, or if I make a reference to Cyborg Justice right now,
Cyborg Justice.
People who've been with us for a while will get it. But people who didn't listen to that, who start now and they go, Cyborg Justice, I love that game. When did they talk about that? I'd listen to early episodes if I knew they had talked about it. We'll just start at the beginning. You'll hear it.
We're gonna need to get full transcripts for each episode, so we get maximum SEO. What? There's literally a Cyborg Justice episode.
These people who they've got podcast feeds that are just searching SoundCloud for anything that references Cyborg Justice.
I was thinking, for some reason, when you were talking about Elderborne, I was thinking a little bit about Massive Chalice. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I do. I do remember. That was that weird turn-based game from Tim Schafer's
Double
company.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out in between XCOM 1 and 2. I played it almost immediately after XCOM because I was like, I need more XCOM. And it didn't do that at all. But that was another just completely out there reference. I'd recommend that game to people for sure, but no one's gonna remember that game in maybe 2 years ago.
No one remembers it now.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that covers it.
I think that
anything else you'd like to add?
Social media, get some, check ours out.
Get some. Create new accounts on Facebook, because we know no one has Facebook anymore. And then like Game Off Podcast.
Yeah, check us out
and
there.
then also every other platform.
Tweet at us with other games no one cares about to reference in here. If you want to have us reference something, you want us to talk about Redneck Rampage next week, just tweet at us, and we'll find a way to work it in.
We always do.
Yeah.
Weird, we're on our second year now.
Yeah.
2020. Woo.
Ooh, having a time. Thanks for joining me on this, Brent. Thanks for doing this with me again.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it with anybody else.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.